sure hope somebody is listening to what I'm saying.
The New Low News Show came out in May 2007. At the time, we were interested in atheism in general, because me and Graham were both atheists, and it was interesting because every friend who I had made was an atheist, and it wasn't like we met at a baby-eating convention or, a deviant sex shop or anywhere else that atheists meet when they're being godless. It was just like a honing device. It's like you recognize somebody that is similar to you and has similar interests, and they happen to be atheists and happen to be uncircumcised, which, well, that's another video that maybe next week will be uploaded. YouTube was really oversaturated with atheistic content. I mean, maybe our shit was better, but we had more to offer, and the show was about more than that. So, I mean, there's only so many ways you can say, I don't believe in God. God? That shit ain't real. That nigga God, he tripping. Before it's a little boring. One of our last segments where we spoke directly to atheism or the idea of being an atheist was when we called the Rational Response Squad. Now, the Rational Response Squad were some pricks who put up the Blasphemy Challenge, which was to announce that you do not believe in the Holy Spirit because that is, as they say, the most unforgivable sin in the Bible, or the only one that is completely unforgivable. We called them and just told them that they were weak as shit, and also we were trying to prove on our own show that every young American atheist was not so lame and did not worship rationalism or science or anything else. I mean, the only thing that atheists have in common with each other is that they don't believe in God. Some of them believe in ghosts. Some of them are just nuts. We weren't the oldest YouTube atheists. We were actually some of the most recent. But it's interesting to remember that our show came out a full year before The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, and 2 years before God Is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens. Being an atheist was generally less accepted before those books. I mean, it's not really accepted now. It's still weird when I say that I'm an atheist and I hear the reaction. But I used to hear all kinds of really weird questions before those books came out. I would hear things like, oh, so you believe in the devil? Or, so you're your own God? And just weird shit. And I haven't heard much of that in recent memory. A lot of the reason for this was Christopher Hitchens and his book, God Is Not Great. The first time I saw Christopher Hitchens, he was on some pundit's show, and he was defending the war in Iraq. Though I didn't agree with him, he seemed to understand the issue much more deeply than either the America fuck yeah side or the Michael morons who only didn't support the war because their favorite celebrities didn't. As I read and saw and heard more of Christopher Hitchens, I realized that he had a deeper understanding of most things than most people. On the Bill Maher show, which I used to watch, anyone around him looked shallow and sort of stupid by comparison. And it wasn't because he was being a snob or putting on an act. It was really because he was more intelligent. On top of his obvious intelligence, he lived a life of hard drinking, heavy smoking, and heavy expressive output. I mean, if you total up all the essays, appearances, interviews he did, it's really unbelievable. It's a Zappa-esque output, and he carried an open container through most of that. Imagine my surprise when he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. Well, it wasn't really surprise, it was sadness. It's not a surprise if you drink heavily and smoke heavily, burn the candle at both ends, as he says, you put yourself at risk for that kind of thing, and he has a family history of it. It was a strange coincidence that he wrote his memoir before he was diagnosed. Of course, there was a public reaction. There was public proclamations of religious groups or intellectuals praying for his recovery or continued sickness and death. And there was also wonder, would his own fate affect his views on the afterlife or God? What he said to that was, of course not. He added that if there is any quote attributed to me that I've renounced atheism or said that he believes in the afterlife or God, disregard it. Like usual, he exposed the whole thing for what it really is. There's always an effort when an atheist dies to find evidence that he wasn't fully atheistic up until the end. Hitchens previously has made the opposite point pretty clear. People say they believe in God and fate, but as soon as they're sick, they are more likely to trust medicine. What a sick, feeble person who's about to die says does not count for more, it counts for less. What a person does when they're at their most alive, at their most healthy and vital, is what counts. And Hitchens proved that with how he has lived. Uncompromising, intelligent, unapologetic. That's how we should all live. Though Hitchens is sure he's going to die soon, I hope he survives it and makes cancer look as foolish as all those religionists he's debated. Whatever happens to him, I'm going to live the way he did. So, I'm about to get drunk, well, drunker than I am, and write some more. And I hope...
Keep it ghetto, pull more strings than Geppetto, and laugh while the straight shots echo, and wake up neighbors. What I told's ridiculous, I spit black licorice flavor.